Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Think Tank Sports. Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Check us out on the socials: Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Listen to us on Spotify for podcasters or wherever you get your podcasts. We're out there on a whole bunch of them for you to listen to. And watch us on YouTube as we delve into that and continue the video portion of the show. Yeah, so we're here to talk New York Yankees. There's a lot of storylines, not just with the Yankees. We just got through the trade deadline, which we were, right at the end of last week. Still had some other things happen. Trade deadline. We got fights. We got all kinds of crazy stuff going on in baseball. And it's funny because this is considered the dog days of baseball, right? It's August and everything else. And Mike, as far as I can remember, this is a pretty intense beginning to August that I don't know that we've seen in a little while.
Well, you got two things. By the way, hello, folks. Thanks for our tens of fans for joining us, and Dave going with the cold flat open there. Appreciate that. Maybe get a 5-hour energy or stick a cattle prod in your ear.
Flat.
Let's get going here. We got
wow.
Big podcast tonight, folks. We're talking Yankees and, like Dave said, Major League Baseball trade deadline. And in a separate communication, we're also going to talk to Tony Otero, our resident Met fan, and Brendan Burke, the Detroit Tigers super fan. And so we're excited tonight, Dave. I think you got a couple of things working here with the dog days, as you said, and it's an astute observation. The expansion of the wild card. The expansion of the wild card, obviously, you have more people, more teams being buyers, or at least, tinkering a little, trying to get their roster right. And be contenders. And social media obviously is a huge factor, still continues to get like this unfettered access to players in the history of the game, which is just tremendous. So yeah, there's definitely a lot going on for our August 7th here in Major League Baseball. And let's just start with our Yankees, Dave. Speaking of strange things going on, we go back to what was it, last Thursday against the Tampa Rays with the scheduled Domingo Germán start.
Wednesday.
Yep. That's right. And we get news as the game gets close that Germán has.
Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second.
It was one of those days, sometime last week.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's Wednesday. Cole pitched. Okay. So it wasn't Wednesday.
The Yankees lost 5-1. The first game of the series was Monday, the 31st. Oh, while we were recording, right? Yes, that's what happened. While we were recording Monday.
Yes, there you go. You got it.
Germán was supposed to start.
Yep, you're on it.
We get word that he's got a sore armpit, and that's kind of like a strange way for them to put it. And he scratches his start, and
then comes out of the bullpen and throws 5 stellar innings.
Yeah, your boy Johnny Burrito gets the start and scuffles, and then all of a sudden there's Germán warming up in the bullpen. It was like, wait a minute.
He just said he's hurt and everything else.
Some kind of miracle deodorant they put on his armpit, and away we go, I guess.
The stuff from Michael Pineda's hat that all of a sudden ended up in his armpit. I don't know.
But what's worse, Dave, it was none of that.
No, it was none of that.
So it comes out the next morning that Germán's being put on the commissioner's list, or whatever it is they're calling the list where you're not suspended, but you're definitely not playing. And he's checking himself into an alcohol rehab center. And
Yes.
turns out, jokingly that night, I was texting with you and Steve and saying, how bad would it be if he showed up to that start on Monday night drunk and they had to wait for him to sober up, pitch?
Yeah.
Well, it's bad, folks, because that turns out that's exactly what happened. And this, of course, on the heels of the cheating with the substances on his hip there, the sticky stuff, and the off field, being a piece of crap and beating up his girlfriend.
Right. The 80 game suspension, right?
Right.
I believe.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there were a couple of years back, but now what Mike is getting at is there's a history, there's a trend now with Domingo Germán. And look, we're not wishing ill will on him in any way. We hope that he gets all of the help that he needs and he can get back and do what he needs to do, whether it's with the Yankees or not. But we are talking about
yes, on a human level, we want him to get better.
Yes. But when you look at the impact that this guy has had on this season, it's really a head scratcher, Mike. It really is. And I guess with that, that type of thing, that's how it goes.
He throws the no-hitter, a few months ago too.
Perfect
and if
game.
you remember, I said at the time I had a hard time rooting for it. And this certainly didn't help for anything he might do for the Yankees in the future.
No.
This is a disaster on the field for the Yankees. Complete disaster. One of the few semi-effective pitchers all season, and really could use that arm and the innings that it was going to eat, and just a terrible turn of events for the Yankees. However, Dave, it was still 24 hours till the trade deadline when this information was available to the front office. So you think maybe the Yankees would go out and get a John Flaherty who was on the market, or
and his brother Jack
Seattle,
too.
or Jack Flaherty. Both of them could pitch, lefty and righty. So I'm just going to do that every podcast. I'm just going to start doing it in the cold opens. Anyway.
Right. But the need for starting pitching is what Mike is trying to hammer away at here, despite his penchant for not remembering the brothers' names correctly. And so the Yankees go out and do
what the Yankees do. Yeah.
Diddly squat. I shouldn't say diddly squat. They go out and get a reliever.
A middle reliever from the juggernaut that is the Chicago White Sox.
Yeah. And so and our good pal Steve Gross said it best, just like the Yankees, to go out at the trade deadline and get a middle reliever to bolster the best unit on the team, the bullpen. Don't get another starter. Don't get a left fielder. Don't get a third baseman. And there were plenty of options out there. And we'll get, so all of that. And then, of course, we get the news after that with Anthony Rizzo, with the concussion. And so just, we went back and forth, a lot of head scratching moments for the Yankees management, right? Not seeing the signs for Germán, not seeing the signs for Rizzo.
Let's stop right there because that's what I want to get to.
Good. There we go.
How can he have had a concussion for 6 weeks and now we're putting him on the IL for it? Yeah. I thought he hurt his spine or some kind of aggravation of his chronic back injury and he was fighting through it. A concussion is serious business, dude. We saw what it did to Clint Frazier's career with the Yankees. They managed that so well.
Well, and also think about, Tua Tagovailoa with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Now baseball is not as contact as football, obviously, but
still,
same kind of thing. Rizzo's having all of these, quite honestly, when you read about it, very clear signs that something is not right. The fuzziness, the blurred vision, and all of these things.
So they're supposed to protect Rizzo from himself. Okay. He's a warrior. He wants to play. I
Yep.
get all that. But the Yankees just do everything the opposite of what they're supposed to do in these situations lately. They're not protecting Rizzo from himself, and it could effectively end his career with his age and the serious of an injury. Even when he comes back, he's going to have a lot to prove to see if he could ever get back to 85% of what he used to be.
Yep.
And they don't do that. But then with like Stanton and Judge and all these guys that have, there you got a little boo-boo, and then they don't play him for him. It's just so frustrating, as you can tell. I'm a man of many words, and none of them are being effective right now. So, what do you think, Dave? Am I being conspiratorial? Am I being, over the top with, what I'm saying here with the Yankees messing up that much, or am I overblowing it? I guess is the question.
No, I mean, I again, these are head scratching moves. And they've talked about how great Rizzo is in the clubhouse and, all of these, great things, contributor, certainly with his defense. And we know his offense has been struggling. Now we know why. But why is he not being protected? You've got, not the best option, but you've had, DJ LeMahieu's been there all this time.
Right.
And now, since Rizzo's been out, we got Jake Bauers at first base. And
I'm
he's
playing well.
right.
But
He's
why
doing
wouldn't
fine.
Bring up
But
Peraza, play him at third, and LeMahieu at first, and
right. Any
away we go.
Number of options, right? Instead, we just ride it out to the point that, like Mike said, does this, this has a serious potential long-term effect on Rizzo's career. So no, I don't think you're overstating it. I think all of this on the heels of the, massive inactivity at the trading deadline. And then Brian Cashman coming out and saying, oh, we're going to go with what we have. And a day later, well, the day before the Herman thing, the next day with Rizzo, going with what we have doesn't really cover it, doesn't cut it. And
you're 4.5 games out of the wild card. You got 3 teams to jump. It's just so infuriating. And then, as the Yankees do, and they do this on the base pass too, on the field, they compound their mistakes by having to rush Burrito up. Remember, Johnny Burrito had 2 really good starts before they sent him back down.
Yep.
And he's got some momentum. And now all of a sudden, he's got to come make an emergency start. And, pitchers are creatures of habit. Now, he's a big boy. He should be able to handle it. But again, another unintended consequence of ignoring Rizzo's concussion for so long is Burrito gets thrown in and he gets beat up a little. And the Yankees lose this game 5-1 to a Tampa Bay Rays team that, is fading quickly. They had after a great start. And you'll see, at least for me anyway, sliding down the power rankings here at Think Tank Sports. It's just it's a math equation that doesn't add up, buddy. I don't understand.
Yep. And so, we're struggling with that, but, then as the Yankees do, and, had some texts again with Steve, saying, oh, hey, look, the Yankees are playing well. And Steve says, don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. And Mike says, I need more than one game to get excited about it. Now, for me personally, I don't get to watch a lot of the Yankees games. I don't have cable, so I don't get to see the Yes Network. And so we had, a Thursday
prime game.
Thursday was on Fox.
Oh, right. Wednesday was prime.
Wednesday was prime, right? So I get to see these 2 really nice, typical, good Yankee performances, getting some runs, getting good pitching, holding these teams down. The Wednesday game, the Yankees get all over Shane McClanahan early. And then, they get to Cole early, and then Cole settles down. And
Yep.
So the Yankees do these things and, they win 2 games and, that they played well overall, I think, in the series against the Astros. They end up splitting the 4 games. But this is the Yankees. Like, they're starting to play a little bit better.
They don't have time for that. Ain't
Yeah.
nobody got time for that.
Yeah. And so this is the hard part with all of the struggles right now. Stanton, is finally getting hot,
LeMahieu's hitting the ball hard again. Volpe continues. He's a rookie. He's going to have ups and downs in the season. He's on a little bit of a heater right now. IKF is starting to swing the bat a little bit. Like you said, Bauer. Well, what a great story. And if he can, hang on and contribute down the stretch, that would be great. McKinney's adding a little bit. Where we're struggling a lot in the lineup, Dave, is the catcher position. Now, admittedly, we weren't expecting Trevino and Higgy to come in and, light the world on fire, but
no, but Trevino was an all-star last year, Mike.
No, I know.
And had, big at bats, he came up in the clutch a lot. So his injury really, really hurts, from an experience perspective. And so now we have, Ben Rortvedt, who, hasn't played for the better part of a year and a half. Right. Getting at bats. He looks overmatched at the plate, quite honestly. In the at bats that I've seen, he doesn't look like he has a clue with what he wants to do at the plate. Right. And so, look, Sean Casey spent some time with him, and maybe he is. But yeah, it struggled. There have been, I definitely saw, some wild pitch pass ball things that allowed some runners to advance in these last bunch of games with Rortvedt back there. And some of that's just experience. He's got to work with these pitchers, and the only way he can do that is to play.
Right.
And like you said, he has to play because we don't have anybody else.
Right. No, but again, catching probably offensively not, where we want to focus our efforts at. I get that.
Certainly not.
I don't know. We're kind of all over the place here, but do you want to break down any one game in particular in the Astro series, or the game that killed me really was yesterday's game, the Sunday game where we lose 9-7. I just felt like every time we got back in it or tied it up, they would go ahead and hit a home run or do what the Astros do. That's one. Being up to having won 2 of the previous 3 would have been really nice to take the series 3-1. And the offense, did what 7 runs is
sure
enough, but
it definitely should be enough. Your good friend Poo Poo Platter there.
Yeah, he poo-pooed the platter.
He's
yesterday.
Showing some wear and tear, right? He gives up the home run the other night to I think it was Kyle Tucker, right? That hit it into the second deck, and he hasn't given up a home run to a left-handed hitter all year. Okay, we know that's going to happen. But just the timing of it was really bad. And so they end up losing that game. And then, this game. And, I think it's tough. We go back and forth with
Yordan Alvarez home run in the 3rd. It was a low line drive that got out in like 1 second to right field, dude. It was like, hard liner to right, and it's gone. I mean, nobody had time to react. That was crazy.
For sure.
This Astro team is good, Dave.
They are good. But again, the Yankees went toe to toe with them.
Sure they did.
I didn't feel like the Astros were way above them talent wise, and I felt that way for a long time. I mean, the last 5-6 years, the Astros have just had their number, and obviously in the postseason, it's been no contest. But this series, I felt like the Yankees battling a little bit more. Yesterday's game, I didn't look at the final numbers, but at one point the Yankees had walked 10 times. Yeah, they walked 12 times in this game. patient. Now you also had our good friend Angel Hernandez behind the plate, and boy,
well,
oh
he was
boy,
bad for both teams. I'll give
yes,
him
he
that.
was bad for
Yeah.
both teams. Agreed. I saw um, either a changeup or a slider that came in that was like low in the strike. I mean, it was without a doubt a strike, and
Yeah.
just a whole lot of nothing. You know, he
And
calls
you
the
can't
he
even
calls the
blink or
balk.
he'll throw you out. Yeah.
Yeah, and
Oh
he
yeah,
calls
Mr.
the balk, and says Peralta, step towards home plate. They show the replay. There's no way in hell he steps towards home plate.
How does he
I
have
mean,
an
his
angle of
toe
that?
is 90 degrees from home
Right.
plate, pointing right at first base.
Right.
And even Michael
How
K
does
commented, like, there's Angel Hernandez getting in the middle of the game.
Right. There's just no way he has a good angle to see where
Nope.
that foot is compared to the rubber. That's the first base umpire's call. Always should be, for sure. But I agree with you, Dave. The Yankees are looking better, and they're starting to come around, especially at the plate. And a lot's been made about Sean Casey, the mayor, as they call him, preaching, getting back to having tough at bats, taking
Yeah.
more pitches. You know, it doesn't mean you have to go 3-2 in the count every at bat, but wait for early in the count, know what your pitch is and hit it. You're talking about Rortvedt earlier.
Yeah.
You at least got to know what your favorite pitch is. And so when you see it, you attack it with a vengeance, down and in fastball. That's my pitch. Perfect. Go get it every time you see it.
Yeah.
But there's just no plan for him. So the Yankees are coming around, but this is a sprint now. Every game, we can't lose these silly games. That Herman stuff has to be behind us. All of that has to be in the rearview mirror if we're going to make a run. At a playoff spot. And even then, Dave, you're Mr. Positive. I get it. Super happy guy. That's what I always think when I think of Dave Pennick. Super happy, fun guy.
Woohoo.
Even if we make the playoffs, I mean, I know you got to get in it and anything can happen. I get it. We have the roster talent. It's going to take it. They're going to have to be playing very well for me to think we have a legit shot. Especially in the American League, where there's so many really good baseball teams. Again, we'll see that when we get to the power rankings. But it's top heavy right now in the major leagues for the American League. So.
And valid point. They're likely at this point to be a 5 or a 6. They're going to be playing, all the games on the road in that 3-game series. What happens? Does Cole have to pitch, in that last series of the year in order to get them in, so that you don't have him for game 1, or maybe not even game 2, or if it's game 2, it's short rest. And that's the difference between, playing good during the regular season and lining your pitching up versus not. And so it's
Who
valid.
would you start instead of Cole then? If he has to pitch the last game of the season to get in, everyone else was healthy, starting wise. I get you'd have to go Nestor, right?
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, it's certainly not Rodon or Severino.
Well, no,
probably
and
not.
Rodon goes out and hurts his hamstring, and so he's out. He's on the IL, and he hasn't been good when he has pitched, and now he's hurt again.
I didn't know they put him on the IL. I missed that. I know he was hurt. He came out, but he looked like he was coming. He should have been pulled anyway.
They pulled him on the IL today, hamstring. And you look at all the pitchers besides Cole, and Mike mentioned Clark Schmidt. Clark Schmidt's been great over the last 10 starts. He's got a plan when he goes in there, and he throws hard, and but you're not going to start him in game 1. No, I think, but again, what happens? Do you need Cole and Nestor back to back, Saturday, Sunday, last series of the year, which is against the Royals, by the way, in Kansas City? Like, are you having to pitch those guys in order to get into the playoffs?
It's crazy. And we need arms. And then we get the distressing news that you broke to me tonight. Devi Garcia gets DFA'd. What? What? I mean, this was one of the more promising young arms in the organization. Came up, I thought, showed a lot of promise in 2020 when he was pitching, in that abandoned wind tunnel in Buffalo against the Blue Jays.
Against the Blue Jays, yeah.
Yeah.
But he had some good starts. There's no doubt.
Right. So is he hurt? Did they ruin him? Maybe he's out of options and they put themselves in a spot where, they couldn't do anything but DFA him. I don't know, but it's very disconcerting.
Yeah.
Is Frankie Montas alive?
I don't know. We have heard nothing.
Can we send out a
nothing since July
rescue ship
17th.
for him?
Hey, he saw the guy and everything looks good, but literally no reports. I mean, we talk about this every week and it's frustrating. I mean, here's another guy who is supposed to be part of our rotation and hasn't pitched all year.
Right. All right.
And so you let go.
Paint me a picture. Paint me a picture of how it happens.
Garcia, because you're bringing in, Johnny Lasagna is back. He's
Which is
pitched
great.
well. So, strengthened an already strong bullpen.
Right.
But why don't you
So right now
DFA
you
one
have
of
to have
these
a
umpteen
bullpen,
number of bullpen guys?
Yeah. So paint me a picture, Dave, as we sit here on August 7th. How do the Yankees make a wild card spot? Show me how that happens with specifically the pitching. I know the hitting's been terrible all year, but with Judge back and Stanton's heating up and, we're talking about them coming around, starting to score runs. But we've been leaning on that starting pitching and now it's showing up. Talk about the dog days of August in the summer. Here's where we're seeing it in the starting rotation. And, we talked about Marinaccio had to go down because he needed rest. The Poo-Poo Platters definitely overworked. All of these guys, if I see Ian Hamilton come out of the bullpen one more time, I'm going to throw the cat into a nice soft blanket. Don't worry.
Soft blanket. Yes.
Nice soft landing for the 20-year-old cat. But paint me a picture because I can't see it.
I
You're
think
a man of vision.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is you have to hope that Rodon's hamstring is not terrible. He's on the IL, does the 10 days and is able to come back and pitch. I think, you have to hope. And we saw a great sign from Nasty Nestor. He only pitched 4 innings on Saturday, but he had 8 strikeouts, nice movement. Things look good. He was on a pitch count. We understand that. Cortez needs to be better. Cole needs to continue to be better.
Cole's
is
going to win the Cy Young. He's been everything we asked for.
Yeah. So if he continues, you can get Rodon to pitch better. Cortez continues. If Clark Schmidt continues to pitch well, if you can get good starts from 4 of your 5 starters and try to limit, some of the use of the bullpen, and give some of those guys a break. I think that's your recipe because I think we're starting to see the hitters are coming around. Make the case if you want that Sean Casey's philosophy is starting to break through, like you said earlier, Mike. And then
it's a slippery slope because you don't want to be paralyzed and just take pitches for the sake of taking pitches. But anyway,
right? Yeah, so we have to see. The Yankees are chasing some teams. They've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games left with the Red Sox, 6 games left with the Blue Jays, another 3 with the Astros, 3 more with Tampa. So, there's opportunity. There's opportunity, head to head to play these teams that, they need to beat. The Tigers are not good. We're going to talk to Brendan. Look, they've got 6 games with the Tigers coming up. They got 3 games with the Nationals, 3 games with the Pirates, 3 games with the Royals. There are some games out there where the Yankees can do well. They open up a series tonight in Chicago against the White Sox. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I think that needs to fall into place, but and I think you were kind of hinting at it, Mike, the margin of error is very slim.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Well,
series win after series win after series win. They can't have these games like yesterday. They can't have those games and expect to get into the playoffs unless all these teams are going to collapse. And at this point, it doesn't look like that.
simultaneously, right? One of my favorite quotes, Dave, is when effort meets opportunity, that's when success happens. So opportunities there, you just laid it out. There's some opportunity to beat up. There's a lot of meat on that bone of bad teams. And then you're in a spot to go head to head against some of these teams you need to take care of business with. So I'm rooting for it. I like that you're the positive hard charger here, and I will try to stay more positive. I've been down on the season all year, and I hate it. I want to enjoy some baseball and enjoy my Yankees, our beloved New York Yankees, as my good friend Dave likes to say.
Yeah.
Anything else on the Yankees we need to attack here, buddy? Or
no, I think we've got it.
That's leaked out to you.
Nope.
No?
I think we've talked about everything that I was thinking about, Mike.
So while we were just talking about the Astros, last Tuesday, Dave, Framber Valdez throws a no-hitter, and it might be the quietest no-hitter that I have ever seen. Okay, he no one cared. He does it against the Guardians, which admittedly isn't the best team in baseball. 7 strikeouts, 1 walk, and only 93 pitches in a 9-game complete game no-hitter.
And only faced the minimum 27, so he was just the walk away from a perfect game.
Yep. That's impressive, and but again, he throws the no-hitter, and I don't know about you, I didn't see a ton of fan. I don't know if it's because it was the Astros and our algorithm is probably Yankee heavy in our social media, but I didn't see a ton of coverage for it. Did you?
The next day there was a fair amount of conversation, and they talked a lot about it in the Yankee series because Maldonado, the catcher, has now caught 3 no-hitters. Of course, 2 of them were combined no-hitters. So in my mind, I think you throw those out. I really don't give any credit to him for that.
Okay.
As far as that goes. And then he hit very well against the Yankees too. But yeah, I think it got some good media attention.
Okay.
But if there's times if you just kind of miss it, it's during the week, coming off the trade deadline,
could be right.
Lots of other Yankee things to think about. It can get lost, but nonetheless, a good performance from Valdez there, and on the heels of some really bad ones.
Before we do the power rankings, let's quickly talk about all the social media buzz and excitement that was this week, and that is your boy Jose Ramirez versus number 7 Tim Anderson. And first of all, Dave, it was a rare fight in the sense that dudes squared up.
Yep.
And got into boxing stances, and the umpire, if you saw it, he just got out of the way. He was all right, you dudes are going at it. And nobody came in and tackled them, or, there was no hold me back.
Nope.
And so
it was almost like a hockey fight from that perspective, right? Like,
that's right.
Nobody comes in and breaks it up until they get their hands on each other.
Right. I'm sure if you listen to this podcast, you probably have watched the fight 75 times on loop. Jose Ramirez just connects. Dave's giving us the YouTube slow motion reenactment. And Tim Anderson does the cartoon silly out on his feet, straight back onto his derriere. And, is staggering like crazy afterward, but still talking. I guess not amazingly enough, because this guy, that's all he does is talk.
Yeah.
Jose
it's true.
Ramirez, not exactly who I would pick. If you told me two guys were going to, Anderson was going to fight somebody, I wouldn't think Ramirez would be the one that knocked him out like that. I mean, the dude's arms are notoriously short. It's like hanging loose. It doesn't even go down to his hips, his fingertips almost. He's very short armed, but it gets you a lot of power. And I'm thinking back to Rougned Odor and Joey Bats, Batista. Odor, a shorter guy, a short king, as the kids say, and he had that nice, quick, right to the jaw knockout power. So I ask you, Dave, in all of your many years watching sports, was this the best sports knockout, non-boxing and MMA division, obviously? I guess you almost have to take hockey out of it too, because there's so many fights in hockey that's really not fair. So I guess you have football, baseball, basketball. A lot of people are drawing the Robin Ventura, Nolan Ryan comparison as far as legendary fights. Nolan Ryan got Ventura in a headlock and was giving the noogies.
Just pounded him.
Of course, Odor and Batista. In the infamous Yankees-Orioles fight, or I should say Yankees versus Armando Benitez. It wasn't really, Graham Lloyd and Strawberry hit a couple of good shots, but it wasn't as dramatic as that. The only one I could come up with in history, and we didn't see it, I don't think we were even born yet, the NBA, which was on tape delay in the 70s, Rudy Tomjanovich, the former Houston coach.
Oh, when he got punched by the Lakers.
Yeah, Kermit Washington.
Kermit Washington. Yeah.
Ruined
Tomjanovich's career. He was a big time scorer, and broke his face, broke his jaw. Never, from what I've heard about it, never really recovered career wise as a player.
Anything else on that Tim Anderson fight? Or,
no. If you haven't seen,
were you into it? Did you watch
the breakdowns? I watched a lot of the breakdown stuff. There's some really funny launch angle of Jose Ramirez's right arm and arm speed and all this kind of hilariousness. One thing I did see I thought was interesting quickly, Mike, about it is that there was a play in the game the day before, another slide into second base where Tim Anderson was given the business and was a little feisty. And there were some words back and forth. It was not with Jose Ramirez. I don't remember who it was. So what I was thinking when you said
notorious talker,
right? When you were saying, Ramirez, not the guy you would think of, but he's like the guy for the Guardians. And so if they're already fired up about Tim Anderson, and then Ramirez goes in there and Anderson starts chatting, I think Ramirez is just saying, we are the Cleveland Guardians and we're not going to put up with this crap. And I'm going to take it upon myself as the, so-called leader of the team to just say, we've had enough.
Well, he's definitely the leader as far as like fights and having people's backs. I would have picked one of the Naylor brothers, but
but that's the situation as it is,
you're right.
So that's what I was thinking as far as that
and
goes.
Of course, in White Sox fashion, out of all of that, the person most hurt is Eloy Jimenez. Comes limping out of the pile, and he's going to miss some time the fight.
Well, so is Tim Anderson. Got suspended 6 games today, 3 for Jose Ramirez. They're both appealing. I don't understand why. Dude, you guys threw punches on the field at each other. I have no idea why you're appealing. Probably to reduce the suspensions, I guess. But
and pick the team that you're gonna miss. Those suspended games for.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's do the power rankings, Dave, and we'll do the rest of the trade deadline and the picture we sent each other when we talked to Brendan and Tony.
Yep, for sure.
So number 10, we're just going to transition quickly for the sake of time here into Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen for our combined power rankings. Number 10, Dave, I'm going to give you the San Francisco Giants at number 10 for me. That's my nomination. 61-51. JD Davis, Wilmer Flores, currently lead the team, catch the stat, with 14 home runs apiece. It's possible nobody will hit 20 home runs on that team for the season. And that has never been done in their history, even back to the dead ball era. But they're just playing smart baseball. They're always hanging around the veteran group. I like them at 10. Who do you like at 10?
Well, I had the Milwaukee Brewers at 10, Mike.
That's fair.
And the Brewers not playing all that great. I left the Giants out just because they lost 2 games to the lowly Oakland A's this weekend.
That's true.
The A's, coming in and at 30-80 before these last 2. I just could not put San Francisco, even though they are 10 games over 500. And I agree, like playing a little bit better and feisty. I just could not put them in the top 10 because of those 2 losses to the A's.
Okay, that's fair. So who do you have at 10?
I have the Brewers at 10.
Oh, Brewers. Yeah. Okay. I'll go with the Brewers at 10. I had them at 9, but that's fine with me. The Brewers need they need to pick it up offensively,
which has been the story all year, right? That their offense has struggled. Their pitching has been really good. They got Woodruff back. He had a nice outing over the weekend. Brandon Woodruff, that is. They're only a game and a half ahead, and that's probably more a product of the Cincinnati Reds losing 6 games in a row, and falling a little flat there after their peaking there.
The Cubbies too are right there, 58-54.
Yes,
and have that. But yeah, so Brewers at 10. So at 9, who do you have at 9, buddy?
I had the Seattle Mariners at 9. They're playing well. They swept the Angels and moved ahead of, the Angels have been behind them, but now the Angels have lost 6 in a row. The Mariners swept them. They've won 5 in a row. They're 8 games over 500. Just a team that kind of was hanging around, and we wondered, aloud for a good part of the year, when the heck were they going to put it together? And they started to put it together. So I had the Mariners at 9, Mike. What say you?
I can second that emotion, buddy.
Okay.
It would be fun to see them back in playoffs 2 years in a row. So, the Cubs I didn't have in the top 10, but I certainly, as you could tell, considered them.
Yep, I had them right on the edge
team
as
I
well.
want to mention. Okay. For number 8, Dave, I would like to nominate the Philadelphia Phillies.
Ding, ding,
I'm
ding.
suddenly very bullish on the Phillies. Obviously, Aaron Nola needs to get it corrected if they're going to actually do something in the postseason. If there's a team, we talked about the Yankees making the playoffs, so what? If the Phillies make the playoffs, look out. They're going to be very good. And Harper, again, continues to bounce back from his Tommy John and play an okay first base. But, yeah, they need their ace to probably go up the ranks anymore for me.
Yep. I have them at 8 as well. Mike's been bullish on them for a few weeks, and now they're really starting to put it together at 61-51, 10 games over 500. Philadelphia Phillies doing great. Mike, at 7, I had the Toronto Blue Jays, 63-50, coming off of a sweep of the slowly fading Boston Red Sox. Toronto just continuing to play well enough to stay in the hunt. And
And they're
so
getting Manoa back, which will help them.
maybe.
Yeah. They went out and got DeJong at the trade deadline. If you remember, Bo Bichette was hurt, and they weren't sure how hurt he really was. But thankfully for them, he's fine. So they're just that much stronger. Real quick, because this is one of these great baseball stories. Davis Schneider, 28th round pick in 2016.
Yes.
For the Blue Jays, 7 years in the majors or in the minors, makes his debut. And he's gone 9 for 13 with 2 home runs. So good for him. Crash Davis is alive and well north of the border. Number 6 for me, David, I would like to nominate the Houston Astros. I believe
6 for the Astros. All right. So you're good with Toronto at 7.
Yep. I'm sorry. I didn't.
Nope. That's okay.
Yeah.
As
6
we're
for
doing,
the Astros.
Yes. I also have the Astros at 6.
This is boring, buddy. We're supposed to be good podcasts.
Yeah, I
here.
moved some stuff around and thought, maybe things would be okay. So we had mentioned earlier that we were going to have some guests on the show, and we are creeping up towards our guest time. And so we are going to welcome Tony Otero into the mix here.
Very nice.
So as he comes into the mix, we're waiting here on the video.
Okay. But
Tony, as you can just kind of listen in, we're working on our as he shakes his head with his Mets hat on. We're still plugging away at our power rankings, and so 1, 2, 3, 4. We've still got our top 5 to go. And so we just to update you, Tony, since you just came in, Mike and I both have the Houston Astros at 6. And so for me, boy, I was going back and forth, and I changed my mind here. I'm going to put the Tampa Bay Rays at 5, 68 and 46. Here's the thing for me with the Rays, and I've been talking about this all year. They started out 24 and 6, right? One of the best 30 game starts in history. 44 and 40 since. 44 and 40. So you can take the Rays and 500. I mean, and that's been the trend with these teams have had great starts. They're just in a bad spot because the Orioles are playing so well. So I had Tampa Bay at 5, Mike.
At 5, I have the Los Angeles Dodgers. Their starting rotation is not of classic Dodger vintage. And it seems like every injury seems to be with their starting pitching lately. And if they're going to count on Tony's old friend Ahmad Rosario to hit home runs, they are not going to finish well at the end of the season. Gets this for a stat. He hit 26 home runs his entire career with the Guardians. And hang on one second. I'm reading this wrong.
Apparently.
His second home. Wait a minute. Rosario hit, 3 home runs and 412 plate appearances for the Guardians. It took him just 26 at-bats to hit 3 home runs for the Dodgers. Ahmed Rosario, your Dodgers starting shortstop, folks.
There you go. Okay,
so
Mike,
we need to.
I will.
Tony can break the.
Yeah. I can acquiesce and say that we can put the Dodgers at 5. I had them at 5, but then thought, well, maybe I'd move them up a little bit. So we'll keep the Dodgers at 5. Hopefully Jeremy doesn't get too unhappy with us. Him and his pictures with the former mayor of San Diego that he sent us, and hanging out with the Ronald McDonald statue
in the middle of January.
We'll talk about that another time. All right. So I'm assuming, Mike, that you have Tampa at 4.
I do.
Okay.
I do, for all the reasons you said. McClanahan and Glasnow, if they're going to turn this around, need to really turn it around themselves.
Yes.
And they're just not the same. Rosarena is just not as good this year. He's good, but he's not, what he was previous 2 seasons for sure. Wander Franco's nice, but still like to see him, take another step. Anyway,
44 and
Rays
40, 44 and 40. That's all you got to know.
Yeah. I mean, remember when we started, we thought the Rays would be at 1 all season, and here
They
we are
were
down
for
to
a
4.
while. Yep.
So 3 must be the Texas Rangers.
Yes. 66 and 46. They've won 6 in a row, coming off of a sweep of a Miami Marlins team that seems to be going in the wrong direction quickly. And again, as they've had most of the year, the tremendous run differential at plus 170. If you're Texas, be a little concerned that they're only 500 away from Texas, but if they finish in those top spots, they're going to have more home games. So all they got to do is, win one road game in one of those series and they should be all set. So yes, Texas at 3.
Then Baltimore 2, right?
Baltimore at 2. Yes.
They came out and showed the Yankees there's the better team for sure. It's like they're bringing up somebody named Cody Kowser, and he's producing. Have you ever heard of Cody Kowser in your whole life? Me either.
Nope. I've heard of Cody Bellinger. I thought he was going to be on the Yankees last week, and that didn't happen.
Now, I do think Angelos cheaped out on the trade deadline. They certainly could have gone out and gotten more help, especially starting pitching. Not only is the rotation young, they're all butting up against their innings limitations for the year. So the rotation you see now is not what you're going to see when the playoffs hit. Now, Flaherty's a nice veteran presence, but he's not, going to make the difference. Whereas if they got a Verlander, who obviously was available, Scherzer, or even Lorenz and somebody else, I guess, is what I was hoping they would do for their sake. And then the Braves, Dave.
Of course, Tony's favorite team, the Atlanta Braves.
We really didn't know you were going to be on yet at this point, Tony, so don't take this personally, but this team is just unbelievable, playing at a tremendous pace, 78 and 39.
Yeah.
I mean, facts are facts. I mean, they're good. I mean, you can't, whether I'm mad about it or not, they're really good.
Whether you're mad about it or not. Yep.
Their top 4 hitters in their lineup all have 25 home runs or more. Matt Olson quietly on pace for 50 home runs, the quietest 50 home run season you'll ever see. Acuna Jr., 53 stolen bases already.
Yep.
Michael Harris is the number 9 hitter. He's got over 1,000 OPS. I mean, it's just up and down the lineup. Max Fried comes back and doesn't miss a beat. Strider. I mean, they're in cruise control until October. That's just the bottom line with them, right?
Yep. And I think we talked about that last week, as the challenge for them is staying motivated, right? At this point. I mean, they have a sizable 10.5 game lead over the Phillies. They just need to continue to play well, and avoid injuries.
If they don't have the motivation this year after they got destroyed by the Phillies, then they deserve to lose.
Yep.
Right.
Completely fair point. And
I think this group wants to prove they can win without Freddie Freeman too. I think that there was a little bit of not bad blood, but a little bit of jealousy. He was the older all-star player and got the attention, except for it came to contract time, apparently. But when they won a couple years ago, it was like, this is Freddie's team, and these guys are a little younger, this core, and they'll rest on that if nothing else for motivation. But you're right, Tony. Great point out of you as usual. Dave, what do you think? Ready to move on to?
I think we're good as far as that. Our power rankings go, and again, we'll put those out for folks to react to on the socials. but the big thing is we have Tony back, and you could see
for the messy part of the show.
Yeah, for the messy part of the show, as you could see if
Well,
you're watching
the
on
first
YouTube.
hour was Yankee talk, so it's already been messy.
Yes. The look of disgust on his face based on the New York Mets and what has become, I don't know. I mean, we've had some collapses by the Mets, but this
doesn't count as a collapse. A collapse would make it seem like they were actually in it. They weren't.
Well, they did start 14-7, so
that doesn't mean anything.
I mean, after 21 games, they were kind of in it. I don't know, trying to spin the positive, but there really isn't much.
It's fine.
There really isn't much to do. So much to break down. You're talking about, Steve Cohen and an owner who said he's going to spend money, spends money, and then says, hey, we're not going to do a fire sale, and then does a fire sale. And Tony and I were texting about this, just a pivot in a completely different direction, and Tony, you had said, normally past Mets ownership, you wouldn't see that from them.
You wouldn't. And I think, the feeling is, don't get me wrong, we're not necessarily happy at the current situation. Okay. We're not. We're currently, as I speak, the Mets are up 3-1 against the Cubs, but that could change at any moment. I think what it is that we're not used to owners who are committed to their word. I still think that Steve Owen probably in the long run may have done the right thing. I just think that we're shocked that he did it in the way that he did it. He didn't wait until December to the winter meetings. He did it now.
Yeah.
So, and I think it comes down to this. No one who is a Met fan is upset about Scherzer leaving. No one.
No.
As I've said to you before, and I say it again, we hired him for 2 games last year, and he blew both of those.
And he blew both of them against the Braves.
And then he started very terribly this year. So people were just like, I think what people are upset about is Justin Verlander. Yep. I think people would have thought that we had him for another year and he would have at least solidified the rotation for next year. So anybody else who left, because, I'm thinking about Robertson, Canna, Escobar, Pham, and Leon, no one really is upset about any one of those. I think Canna didn't get a lot of much burn because he just didn't get a lot of burn. Yeah. Escobar is so streaky. You know what I mean? Like if you think about Escobar and his tenure as a Met, you think about last September when he had that month of glory. But I would say Tommy Pham was the best player that the Mets had.
Interesting.
Best player consistently wise. I'm not saying he's better than than our top players, but he was always ready to play every day. You know what I mean? So
you take him over Marte just because of his availability? Because I widely consider Starling Marte as the best player on the Mets.
Talent-wise, yes, but Starling Marte is not playing at the level he did last year. So I think with Tommy
or whatever he's got going on.
I think with Tommy Pham was a rental. They were like, we can get something for him and we will. And I just want to say that I've never been going to laugh at this. I don't think any Met fan knows more about prospects than they do now.
Well, let me piggyback on that for a second.
Yeah.
So great point by Cohen and his recognizing that this isn't working, pivoting quickly and having the deep pockets to do that. That's why the Yankees and the Dodgers have been successful traditionally, because they have the deep pockets to make a mistake or 10 and, be able to dig themselves out of it financially. But what they got back was nothing short of tremendous, in my opinion, to me. They added the top 9 prospects in their organization. That weren't there before the trade deadline. 9 out of 30. Their top 30 prospects, 9 of them weren't there before the trade deadline in these maneuvers. So for a team that essentially had no leverage in the trade market, because once David Robertson won, everyone knew the white flag was up. And Stevie Cohen's got deep pockets, so we can fleece him because tax the rich or whatever. You know how you live in New York City.
But it's so funny you say that, because he actually saved some money on the tax, the luxury tax.
Right.
by unloading. Yeah.
Yeah.
That scares me. This dude's smart. He didn't become a
He's
billionaire
not
by accident.
right.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
not stupid. And I think what
Right.
it came down to is when he got here, he was like, I want to make sure they win right away. So he spent all the money, and you got 101 wins, and then the ridiculousness that happened. And I think, all right, maybe the formula will work again, and it didn't. And I think, and let's be real, when you look at teams like the Reds, and you look at teams that like, the Orioles, these are teams that have built their organization through their prospects.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So, it's like, well, why don't I just pay for those? And
Yep.
then I'll just get some, I mean, it's not like Diaz ain't coming back next year. I mean, we're going to have a closer better than Robertson. You know what I
Right.
mean? So right now, I think the worry in New York, at least for Met fans, I know what the worry about is Yankee fans, but for Met fans is who's going to be starting. You can't
Yeah.
tell me Tyler McGill is going to be starting next year. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I mean, I'm sure he will be, but he can't be
Right.
the number one person. So
Right.
I think they're really probably looking at getting probably a decent starter. I don't think the Mets are going to be too terrible next year. What I mean by that is I think that they'll be somewhat competitive. But I think, yes, they are probably going for 2025, which a lot of these prospects are going to be ridiculous. I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
it's this is what really struck me. I think after all the trade deals, I think their farm system is like now a top 10 farm system. I think some
Right.
people have them as low as number 8. You know what I mean? That takes years to do. And you
Right.
did that in like a week.
Yeah. No, that's impressive.
So I'm never okay with them losing, but at least I know
Right.
that there's a purpose behind this, because with the Wilpons, they would have just floundered, and it would have just been like nothing, so
They wouldn't have
it's
gotten Scherzer and Verlander to begin with, but still,
in the first place, exactly.
your
So
point's well
I think
taken.
what just left us a little sore is that we all recognize that this is not, I don't want to say it's not on the coaching staff, but part of it maybe is, but the players just did not produce the way we wanted them to produce. They're still not producing. I mean, they just optioned Brett Beatty to
AAA to Syracuse. Yep.
Yeah, today. He's not playing well. I mean, but it happens. Those are things you can't, say that that's a big deal, because these things happen with younger players. But I
What's
think
your
yeah.
no? What's your and the fans? You're speaking for the fans. Congratulations. Our tens of fans are turning to you in their time of need here, Tony. Francisco Lindor. What's the feeling about him? Is he going to come around? I mean, he's had an okay season. He strikes out a lot.
He does.
I don't know his defense. I haven't paid a lot of attention to. So maybe you can fill me in there.
Here's the thing about Lindor. See, Met fans are very, very impatient. They want somebody who is going to be like, Ozzy Albies. You know what I mean? No, he is still one of the best shortstops in the National League. I think that he got robbed of going to the All-Star game. I think that when you look at now, don't get me wrong, his batting average is atrocious, but his OPS isn't. Because now everything's about OPS apparently. So
right.
He's not a bad shortstop. I just think that they're looking to place the blame on. You know what I mean? Look.
So OPS is 798. You generally want it to be about 7.25. So you're good. Yeah.
Right. So I mean, these things happen, and I think that people are losing the fact that with players like Francisco Alvarez, who's having an incredible year. You know what I mean? When they see someone that's not as consistent, we have to get rid of him. No, we should not do that.
Right.
Alonso, average-wise, is having a terrible year, but he hits like he just reached over 30. He's probably gonna hit 40 more. No one cares about that.
Yeah,
I think that Francisco is one of our more clutch players. I just think they should just leave him alone. That's my opinion. It's just that when you're not being protected in the lineup, you don't have McNeil playing well. You're going to be vulnerable. Period.
Yep. Absolutely. So Diaz comes back as closer next year. Adam Ottavino, he's still in the league. What's up with
I
that?
hate that guy. I really hate that guy.
Sorry.
But
I didn't know you hated him. I wouldn't have brought him up.
Look. He is one of the more consistent relievers. I just think that he has a propensity to give up home runs at the absolute worst time.
We're aware.
Oh, we know.
Average wise, ERA wise, he's not terrible. I think he is actually one of the more consistent folks. But I personally don't want to see him. But I can understand why he would still be on there, next season, because we're going to need some veterans.
Yep.
Excuse me.
Yeah. No worries.
Yeah, he's
absolutely. Go ahead,
he's looking he has a 6.75 million player option for next year, and he wants to be there. He said he wants to be there with the Mets. So but geez, he is 38 years old.
Yeah,
I mean, is that what you want?
It's a factor.
For a season? Okay, maybe you can get away with a 38, then 39-year-old reliever, but geez, wouldn't you like some better options?
And again, I think we'll end up getting some options. I'm pretty sure people are still going to want to come to the Mets because this man is willing to pay top dollar for talent.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I'm sure we'll
Absolutely.
get something. I'm sure we'll get something. It's just a matter of, I think he's just really waiting for the younger folks to show up, because in the long run, that probably just saves him money. You know what I mean? If you're dealing with, homegrown, well, quote unquote, homegrown talent that you stole from other teams. But,
right. What's the attendance like? Speaking of homegrown talent, is it there's still people still going to show up, right? Because I imagine tickets have drastically been discounted.
I haven't looked at ticket prices. I'm at a point at work where I'm probably not going to be able to go to the game because I'll be so busy. But I have to see what the attendance is. It's going to drop, and I'm sure they're going to do some sort of deals where you can get this and this. But I think what's going to end up rising in attendance is Syracuse games, Brooklyn Cyclones games, Binghamton games. Those games are going to be, because people are going to anticipate. I mean, people really want to know what Luis Angel Acuna is about.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're going to want to know. I mean, I've heard things about him before he became a Met.
Yeah.
So.
So is the younger brother you got to work out for, right?
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
I mean, he doesn't have his older brother's power, for sure. But he's very fast. He's very smart at the plate. Doesn't strike out a lot. And he probably is going to be a good leadoff person, which we desperately need. I don't think Brandon Nimmo is the ideal leadoff hitter.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you think they'll move on from Nimmo, or?
Oh no, I don't think
so. He's a Met for a while, I would think.
He's a Met for a while. Yeah, I think that what the rumors are swirling, not rumors, but I think people like to talk stuff. Is Alonso's contract hasn't been renewed yet. So, there's been rumors about whether he's going to stay a Met. And I'm like, of course he's going to stay a Met. I mean, that would have been like getting rid of David Wright when he was here. People would riot. You know what I mean?
Like Judge last year for the Yankees. He was always going to be a Yankee. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and so Alonso can become a free agent after 2024. So if you're looking
but they haven't, right.
The 2025 as being the time when you're going to say, okay, we're going to be making a run at things. You probably want Pete Alonso there as part of that. And so, getting him together and lined up and signed before that would obviously be beneficial to them. And Showalter's contract runs through 2024 as well. So,
I was going to ask that, Tony. What do you think of Buck as far as what he's done this year? Or do you want to see him come back?
Muck. I said Muck.
Buck
is a very interesting coach. You know what I mean? I think he's better when he has the talent. I think when he doesn't have the talent, I think he might struggle a little bit. Again, this is my opinion. I'm not sure he comes back. If it was up to me, I would have Wally Backman as the coach, but apparently nobody wants to hire him. So, but
there's a strong 80s pull for you, Wally Backman. Nice.
Yeah, Wally Backman. But I think that I don't see Buck staying. That's my opinion. I think they're probably going to go a different route.
He reminds me of a younger Methuselah, Tony La Russa last year for the White Sox, where there's a disconnect between him and the younger players, and that's okay. That can work. I mean, Bruce Bochy and Dusty Baker, all these guys are being successful, but you have to have a liaison. If you're talking Wally Backman from the 80s or somebody, I still am not sure, that you have that liaison to the younger players, but.
Right, and the only reason why I've said that is because Wally has coached. Because I think he may still he's not with the minor league. I know he was in Arizona for a while.
Yes,
but he has his finger on a lot of the young players. So I think Buck doesn't seem like he wants to play the rookies as much, which I think is not going to help him, because I think what Cohen is going to want is like, I paid for these picks. They need to play.
They need to play.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
I think Mauricio should be coming up, even though there's reports that he's going stale. All this, I don't care. I think people are like, you know what? If you're gonna have the fire sale that you said you weren't gonna have, then bring Mauricio up. Bring these young players up. At least give us some reason to come to the ballpark to see what we're getting in the future.
Sure.
You're not gonna hurt your arbitration with him if you bring him up at the end of the season. You let him dip his toe into the major league pool and see what it looks like.
Right.
Dave, you got anything else for Tony?
Oh, I totally agree. You look at, the Mets get swept by the Royals. Like, that's all you need to say right there. Now it's time to bring up some of the talent. And what do you have to lose at this point? You've already said, that you've already given up on success from a postseason perspective in this year. Right. So bring the guys up, let them play, let them experience, games against the Braves and games against the Phillies, and, just get a feel for that and how hard those teams are going to play against the Mets, and see how they react to it.
Absolutely.
And he can be a spoiler for him too, right?
He can. Sure. And I think the thought was that you bring him in probably toward the end of August, maybe the beginning of September, so it doesn't hurt his possible rookie of the year.
Right, so he doesn't get too many at-bats.
He doesn't get too many at-bats. I've heard that too. So I'm like, all right, whatever's the case. But the Mets are going to be bad. That's just the way it's going to be. And I think yes, we'd rather a different result, but we can't say that our owner didn't do anything, which I know is an issue with the Yankees. I know the Yankees wanted, a lot of fans were saying, why are we not doing any moves? I've been hearing
something.
Do something. And that was us like 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Right.
Was that old internet meme where the dude was poking somebody with a stick? Come on, do something. Yeah.
Do something. Do something resembling anything.
I'll get you out of here on this unless Dave's got something. If I say the name Frank Fleming to you, Tony, do you know who that is? That's a yes, folks?
Yes. He is the guy from Barstools?
Yeah, from Barstools, yeah.
Yes. It's funny because I sent a picture to Dave.
Yes.
Because the last game I went to, he was there. And people were like, Frank, blah, blah, blah. I think he's ridiculous. He's funny, but I think he's ridiculous. And I'm sure he's already lost his mind. He's going to pop a vein or something somewhere.
Yeah,
in his neck,
seriously. He is one of those guys. It's just going to.
I just feel bad for the people like sitting in front of him. And, he's just constantly yelling and that voice just carries.
Yeah,
he's a super fan and that's great. But I just feel bad for everyone's going to listen to him all the time.
I'm saying, but where are you getting the money to go to those games? They're not cheap. Unless Barstool is paying for it.
Barstool has a ticketing app called Game Time, and they pay him. It's secondary ticketing, so they pay him to say he used the Game Time app to get these tickets, and so he's pretty much going for free, which is not a bad gig if you can get it.
I would have taken that gig, but it's all good. But I'm not going to embarrass myself when they lose. So
all right, update us real quick. I believe you and your wife had a little friendly competition with the young one and Yankees and Mets outfits. Where do we stand, Tony?
The people want to know where we stand.
The people want to know.
Personally, well, I have so many opinions about this. He's got a lot of nice Yankee stuff. My son has got a lot of, and the thing is, I also realized retailers sell more Yankee baby stuff than they do Met stuff. Now that being said, I've made sure And it cost me a pretty penny to make sure he had like an actual jersey from like Citi Field. But you know, his grandfather, my dad's also a Yankee fan, so
Yes.
we can talk about that later. But
Yeah,
when we
yeah.
went to the Yankee game, he bought that kid so much. I'm looking at him like, so
Mm.
I think in terms of paraphernalia, I think he's got more Yankee stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, we're glad
But
to
he's
hear
two.
that here.
But he's 2-0 at
2-0.
Citi Field.
Yes,
He's
when the
1-0
Mets are
at Yankee
playing.
Stadium.
Yeah.
But he's 1-0 at Yankee Stadium. So
Okay.
Okay.
I would like to go to another Yankee game before the season is over. So we'll see.
I'm sure the tickets are cheap.
Oh God, they're not. They're really
All right.
not.
We hate to rush it, but we do have another guest in the
All right.
green room. Dave,
In the queue, yes.
Yeah.
But
You guys say your
yeah,
tearful
Tony,
goodbyes
we
to Tony?
very much appreciate you coming on and talking about the Mets. We were I texted Tony and it was like the instant response, oh hell yes, I want to come on and talk about the Mets. You know, the fastest response I've ever gotten via text message from him, and I've been texting him sitting next to him at times, and I've gotten slower
and we've
responses.
worked together, and we've worked together,
and we worked together, and I got slower responses. So
yeah, it's true.
we definitely appreciate you coming on, and we'll certainly chat, you know, potentially again before the season gets out here to see what happens with the Mets. But yeah, thanks for coming on and give us some laughs as always.
Thanks for having me.
Say hello to the wife, and
I will.
you know, give the kid a kiss and tell him he needs to be a Yankees fan, and we'll be all set.
Oh, God. No problem. I'll send you photos of his jersey.
All
right.
Thanks, Tony.
Take care.
Thanks, Tony.
Right,
we'll see you.
Appreciate you. And
just
so we're going to
like
transition,
that,
folks. Yeah.
As fast as we can, transitioning from our Mets talk, and our good friend Brendan Burke, friend of the program, back on, slowly connecting to the audio, looking like maybe he's at Tiger Stadium. I don't know.
Sorry, I just heard you guys. I don't know what you guys said, so I'm sorry, but I'm here now.
No, it's good. We literally just transitioned from another guest to Brendan, and I know, you know, we had him on earlier in the year, and the Tigers certainly struggling a bit, and so we thought, well, let's bring Brendan on because they did some interesting things at the trade deadline. But Brendan, how the heck are you, and where the heck are you right now?
I'm good. I'm in the parking lot by my job. I just got out of work. I ran a little late today, so I'm working.
The working man. We love it. Well, as Dave said, the Tigers 49-62 at a 441 clip, 13 games out of the wild card, negative 105 run differential. And I say all this not to pile on, buddy, because we knew it was going to be a rough season, and they're in the middle of their rebuild. We get it. But did you know it was going to be this bad? I guess is my question. Or where do they stand compared to your expectations coming into the season?
I was trying to go back and review my notes from the beginning of the year, and I said they'll be a little better. I was hoping 70 wins, and I don't think that's going to happen, unfortunately.
No. No.
At this point,
go ahead.
Rebuild, I think. Go ahead.
Nope, you go ahead.
I think at this point in a rebuild, I'm okay with like anyone's fair game at this point, minus like 3 players. So, like that trade they just made the other day for Lorenzen, he was a rental pitcher anyway. He would have been gone after this year. So at least we got someone in return.
So name the 3 players. You said all but 3. Who are your 3?
I think Riley Green's one player you should keep.
Okay, I can see that.
Kerry Carpenter is another one I could see keeping in Tyreek Skubal.
Okay. No, but do, huh?
I think so.
Like him?
Well, it's not I don't like him. We have enough outfielders in the already. Like we have Austin Meadows still in a minor. We have Malloy, who's an outfielder that can still play.
Gotcha.
And then
you mentioned
still ready.
Michael Lorenzen, like you said, was a rental and they shipped him out. But let's be frank, folks. One of the reasons we wanted to have you on is I got to know what is so attractive about Detroit that Eduardo Rodriguez wouldn't waive his no trade clause to go to sunny Los Angeles, getting in the middle of a playoff run, maybe a World Series appearance, and join, a team that is going to have a legitimate shot. What was so incredibly attractive about Detroit? He met you, and your just winning personality and your positivity overwhelmed him. Maybe he follows you on social media. One of the best follows on social media, by the way, folks. If you're looking for positive reinforcement in your life, you can do no better than Brendan Burke, or his brother Brandon.
And Brendan is at this moment getting into the car with his father, who is chauffeuring him around, I believe.
Yeah.
So that's, if you're watching on YouTube here, that's what we're getting, is Brendan outside work and now getting in the car. And
Dave with the play-by-play.
Well, this is, and we lost him completely, so we'll hang on as far as
see
that
if he
goes.
bounces back in. But Dave, the Tigers, man, they it's just, if you folks don't know, Eduardo Rodriguez, they had a deal in place to ship him to the Dodgers, and he had a 10-team no trade clause, which is a very odd thing to have this day and age. And it's all the West, in fairness, it is all the West Coast teams. He's an East Coast guy and just does not want to play on the West Coast whatsoever. So Mike, or you or Brendan, when he comes back on, is whose fault was it really that this transaction didn't happen? Because the front office had to know that the Dodgers are on the West Coast, right? That's not a secret. They're not still in Brooklyn. They had to know that he was on his list of no trade teams. So they put this deal in place and figured they could strong arm him, or nobody went and checked with him and said, hey, we're talking to the Dodgers. Would you waive your no trade clause? I just think it's kind of crazy, don't you, Dave?
Yeah, Brendan, what do you think about the Erod?
Did you hear my long-winded setup at all?
I heard half of it, but I get it just with what you're saying. So,
whose fault is it? Who was it? Front office, or is it Erod? I mean, clearly he does not want to play on the West Coast. And it's been his no trade clause right from the beginning.
I think it
have the front office gone and said, "Hey, listen, we got to trade for the Dodgers. Don't you want to go there?" What do you think, buddy?
I think it's both. I feel like the front office should at least bring it up to him to sit down with him and not like just discuss his name without sitting down with him. But then I think it's also Erod's fault too, because if he just opts out, it's pretty much a big screw you to the Tigers. He opts out at the end of the contract anyway.
So
and he has an option to opt out after this season and become a free agent. So they have, like Brendan is saying, they have this possibility that they could lose him and get nothing for him.
If he signs with the Diamondbacks or something, you got to flip your car over or something, dude. That would just be so aggravating if he ends up in the West Coast anyway next season. But do you think less of him as a player because he won't go play for the Dodgers and get into playoff contention and try to win a World Series? Or do you respect him as a man for saying, I only want to play in the East Coast or the Central time zones? It's important to me and my family. Or is it a little combination of both?
It's a little bit of both. I respect it. Family always comes first. But sports is a business like everything else. If you get relocated for your job, what are you going to do?
Right. Right. But he's earned the right to have that no trade clause they wouldn't have negotiated with. So
exactly.
Clearly a tricky situation there in Detroit. As a potential free agent or a veteran now, you got to ask yourself, do I really want to sign with Detroit, seeing how inept the front office was in this scenario? Do you agree, or do you think money ultimately talks, and if they're willing to spend enough money, anybody will go there?
I think I agree. I heard he's not the only Tiger player. I think I can't think of who the other player is on top of my head right now. But another player is saying they love the culture they're building in Detroit. So obviously Detroit's doing something right if they want to stick around culture and family versus playing for a team that wins.
Okay, that's very good perspective. I think we as fans lose sight of how important family and culture is to these players. That, you know, at a certain level, especially veterans, if they know their job's secure, then these other factors become very, very important. I think of Carpenter in not Carpenter, the pitcher, Adam Wainwright in
Yes.
St. Louis.
Mm-hmm.
He could have easily gone many other places and made more money, but
Yep.
he wanted to stay in St. Louis because of culture and family fit. So give us a prognosis for the Detroit Tigers, or a vision, if you will, for next season, and what year is it we can expect them to be challenging our Yankees? I guess not this year, because our Yankees stink as well, but challenging in the American League, or at least in the Central. What's reasonable for you, Brendan?
So I think they're going to spend a little more money this coming off season. You're going to have Miggy off the books. You can have Javi Baez opt out. Who knows if, like you said, Erod himself could opt out. But that'll free up a little bit of cap space. From there, you can see probably it's not going to be like a major signing, but it might be more. I'm trying to give a good example of the signing that recent. Something like maybe like a 2-year, like $12 million deal, just to like a veteran infielder to help guide the young guys out. Get a couple of veterans. You have a couple of good prospects coming up. I already brought up Cole Keith. He's just waiting to come up, but he's kind of blocked off right now with like Javi Baez there and everything. And Miggy, he's kind of blocked up by Miggy. So you can see them signing a couple of veteran leaders and throwing a couple of the new young guys and see what happens.
Okay.
But for competition wise, I don't see them going to the playoffs till like 2026, 2027.
Okay. And you're prepared as a fan base to hang in there with them? Guess you really don't have much of a choice, but
since the fire sale of 2017, I've been waiting.
okay. That's fair. That's fair. Dave, you got any curveballs you want to throw?
No, I think all good conversation, and just, trying to see where do the Tigers go. That division's not all that great, Brendan. And so, you say 2027, but who's going to be in front of them that really threatens them? I'm not sure that any of those teams, without some bigger moves, maybe Detroit is able to sneak in, at 500 record in 2 years, just because the division's not so good.
And a lot of teams just did a fire sale. Like Kansas City's nowhere near it. Chicago decided to fire sale. And then I think Twins they only have 3 other players under contract, under in the future. And the Guardians, they're always above 500 average team, no matter how good or bad they are. They're all around 500.
So since it's in your division, we'll get you out of here on this, buddy. I'm sure you watched the Tim Anderson, Jose Ramirez fisticuffs there, as Bret Hart would say, at second base. Do you have an opinion on the whole thing and an actual fight in Major League Baseball instead of a hold me back festival? Were you surprised to see that?
Not really. I feel like Tim Anderson had it coming. Everything I've been reading about it, and everyone. There's a lot of people in other clubhouses that don't like him. I know the Tigers fan base doesn't like him much. So I wasn't surprised. I was more surprised that Jose Ramirez was a part of it out of all of them, because he's usually pretty calm. But other than that, and they have a round to happen at one point eventually, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, the Anderson just gets under people's skin, man. Like you said, Ramirez usually doesn't do those kind of things, but I'm glad he stood up for himself and his team. But I hate to see anyone get knocked out like that. That had to be a very humbling experience for Tim Anderson. It'd be very interesting to see his attitude going forward in Major League Baseball, that's for sure. Well, Brendan, we really appreciate you, rushing off of work and jumping on with us. And is your dad a good driver?
I'm with my mom actually now.
Oh, is your mom a good driver?
She is.
Oh, so we know you're going to be safe heading home. We appreciate that.
I'm home now actually.
Oh, wow.
Even better.
One of the
But
best
thank you for
commutes in all the game. Well, thank you for your time, sir. We'll certainly check in. I know you're excited about your Detroit Lions, right?
Always playoff here.
All right. Dan Campbell's got a nice long form interview. You should check out on Pardon My Take. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
But again, thanks for being with us, buddy. Go get your feet up and get ready to attack the day tomorrow with a fervency never before seen by man.
Well, thanks again for having me. It was always a pleasure talking to you guys.
Yep.
Hey, one of my predictions was right. I said the Diamondbacks in Baltimore would be better this year. Look at.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, you
boy,
were right
you're
on that, dude.
Spot on for sure. Good stuff as always from you, Brendan. And, like Mike said, get your feet up, enjoy the rest of your evening and get set for tomorrow. And we'll bring you back in and see what happens towards the end of the season with the Tigers.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks again, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
you,
Brendan.
All right.
Wow. Holy cow, folks. We have had
Woo.
quite the podcast this evening. Wow. Guests abound and all kinds of good conversations. We don't want to drag this out any longer than we need to, but we hope
they're
that
still here listening. They're in for the long run, buddy.
yeah,
Let's
in
go
for
12
the
hours.
long run, that's for sure. But we appreciate you hanging in with us and listening to us. We hope you enjoyed our Yankees talk and power rankings and Tony and Brendan with all of their insights as we continue to move through the baseball season. Lots of other stuff going on. We got college football nonsense to talk about, and it is nonsense, by the way, with the mega conferences becoming, I don't know, beyond mega conferences, whatever that happens to be. The NFL getting all exciting. I was at the Bills practice on Friday, which was interesting. We're not going to get into that now, but the sports world is kicking up. The dog days of baseball are still happening, but other sports are starting to take over a little bit, which is, as we know, we get into September and October, arguably right there with April and May as rivaling some of the best times in the sports year. So we'll keep talking about those things here at Think Tank Sports, and we hope that you'll keep listening as we are here for you, as we strive for 5 here at Think Tank Sports, where we think and you listen. Have a good night, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.